Alright guys, welcome back to another Metaplanet Monday video. In this video, we're going to be talking about three main topics. Number one, we're going to be talking about Metaplanet's recent 780 Bitcoin buy. Number two, we're going to be talking about what I learned from last week's price action. Right? And number three, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price and also Bitcoin treasury companies. How are these two correlated? So without further ado, let's get into it. So we can see Metaplanet buys another 780 BTC. Its total holdings reach 17,132, right? So as we can see, they sold about 5.4 million shares on July 24th, right? So that's last week Thursday, right? So obviously it's not the day itself that they sell all the shares, right? That's just the day the warrants are exercised, right? So when we take a look at the stock price, I think this part is where I will go into a little bit more detail, right? Because we can see last week, right, when they didn't announce a buy, basically the stock price crashed like 14% in a day, right? I think this is a lesson also to Metaplanet's management, right? That weekly buys, even big or small, is better than no buys at all, right? Because you can see once they buy, the share is up now 4.5%, right? But when they don't buy, you can see the shares are down like 14-15% in one day, right? And then when we take a look at the MNAV, now it's trading at a 2.87 times MNAV, right? Extremely cheap, right? In my opinion. I got in at a 3 times MNAV at about an average of 750 yen, and now it's trading at 2.87 times, but the yen price is actually, 50, maybe even 70% more, right? So some people might be asking, okay, is the MNAV going to continue to compress and all? I don't have the answer to this question, right? But most of the time when we saw a 3 times MNAV, generally it's a good time that the price is like bottoming out, right? But for this case, okay, is the strategy still working if the MNAV is at 2.8 times or the MNAV is at 5 times? So obviously I would prefer the MNAV to be at 5 times, because in that case, every $1 that you sell, you get $5 in cash, right? So you are selling $1 worth of Bitcoin on your balance sheet for $5 in cash. Then you take the $5 and you go and buy $5 worth of Bitcoin, right? So in that case, every share that you sell, you accrete 400% gains, right? Not even including the $1 that you sell itself, right? So the last thing that I want to talk about is the Bitcoin price and also Metaplanet stock, right? So actually the first time I bought Metaplanet stock was somewhere here, right? Somewhere early May into June, right? So I did put out a post on my Instagram that said that if the Bitcoin price moves sideways, right, this is actually the best case scenario for these Bitcoin treasury stocks, right? So although a lot of investors think that the Bitcoin price going up is actually good for all these treasury companies, right? Actually, it's terrible for all these treasury companies, right? Because as you can see, when Bitcoin goes up, actually a lot of money is flowing into Bitcoin, and there's no capital flowing into these treasury companies, right? And even as Bitcoin is hitting almost new all-time highs, actually Metaplanet stock went down from this plus 200% to 141%, right? So I think there's a lesson in that. The main lesson being, right, actually stable or declining Bitcoin prices are actually good for these treasury companies, right? Obviously, I don't mean declining in a straight line, right? Because in that case, everyone will give up on Bitcoin. They say, this is not asset I want to be in, or something like that, right? But I'm talking about, like, let's say a 20% dip or correction, right, which happens in Bitcoin very often, right? So that is a good time for these companies to basically dilute and also buy more Bitcoin and put more Bitcoin on their balance sheet, right? Because you can see when the Bitcoin prices move up, right, actually they are not really that correlated. You can see that the Bitcoin prices are basically stable here, and then the Metaplanet stock is just shooting up here. And then when the Bitcoin prices are still going up here, you can see from here it's going up. I think at this point Bitcoin was at 100k. So apologies that I'm using the percentage, right? But obviously TradingView is showing me percentage. I actually want the JPY price, right? But basically I can tell you around here it was 1,900. Around here is 1,500 or 1,400, something like that. And now we are at 1,200, right? Right as Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs, right? So we can see that Bitcoin prices going up doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for these Bitcoin treasuries, right? A lot of people before this pump assume that if the Bitcoin on their balance sheet goes up in value, the multiple will expand at the same time, right? But clearly we can see this is not the case, right? So yeah, that's also a bit of a good learning for us, right? Maybe when we see the next Bitcoin correction, maybe it goes down to 110k, maybe these Bitcoin treasury companies will actually pump, right? Because the assumption from the market is if the Bitcoin price is going lower, you can accumulate more Bitcoin. Therefore, it's better. And also, the more Bitcoin pumps like in a straight line, right, the more close we are to the end of a Bitcoin bull market, right? And if we end the Bitcoin bull market, basically these companies will not be able to raise a lot of capital to continue buying Bitcoin, right? Because we need more and more capital to flow into these companies for them to buy more Bitcoin, right? If not, the strategy and the flywheel basically doesn't work, right? So what's the conclusion for this video? The conclusion for this video is that I'm still bullish on Metaplanet stock. Until this goes to a 1 times MNEF, I'm not really going to be bearish, right? But even at like 2 times, it starts to dampen down the effectiveness of the strategy, right? The best case scenario is if we go to 5 times MNEF and Metaplanet can raise a lot of capital and only diluting current shareholders by a bit, right? And the second lesson is that Bitcoin prices pumping doesn't necessarily mean it's good for all these Bitcoin treasury companies, right? So yeah, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead and peace out.